And we're live here in Nourish, Heal, and Thrive. We have Nathaniel Allenby here, and I'm really excited to get to know all about him because he's got some great stories. So, Nathaniel, thank you so much for being here.
Derek, it's an honor and a privilege. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, so why don't we just start off by sharing a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what you do?
Yeah, I'm a very unusual, unique individual. I'm an entrepreneur, circus entertainer, visual artist, and author. I run Cirque Quirk, which is San Diego's highest rated circus entertainment company. I'm also kind of passively selling my artwork and photography through another company called Allenby Art. And I'm just starting to promote my new book, The Cycle of Kindness. I'm a new dad. I've got a 5-year-old and an almost 2-year-old, and I am back in school for the first time in 20 years, pursuing a master's so I can become a licensed marriage and family therapist in order to get certified to do psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy.
Wow, that's amazing. You got so much going on. Congratulations on being a new dad and going back to school. Great.
Thanks. It's a busy life I
Yeah.
keep, that's for certain.
How'd you get into the circus? I think that's like the biggest question on my mind.
Yeah, I was a college dropout post 9/11 Bush era. I thought politics were vile, seditious, and corrupt, and I couldn't see myself doing it. I started playing video games professionally, went to the first ever BlizzCon, won the first World of Warcraft international tournament. There was no money in it at the time. I was gaining weight, getting acne, losing my eyesight. And my best friend was like, "Hey, man, I will buy you a one-way ticket to Europe and a bike when we get there, as long as you'll ride around with me wherever I want to go." And that was the beginning of all of it.
Yeah, so let's hear about that trip. It sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, like I said, I had gained a bunch of weight. I was unhealthy. When we got there, he basically said, "Okay, we're broke. I don't have any more money. I spent it all. So you get to learn how to juggle so that we can busk or street perform on the streets of cities in Europe in order to make some money." So between learning how to juggle, which was painstakingly difficult, it took me over a month, whereas my best students have learned in 5 minutes. And biking around to everywhere we were going, I essentially went from about 196 pounds back down to 155 pounds where I was beforehand, and was super lean, was probably in the 6% body fat range. My legs had grown to the size of tree trunks, and we started just pedaling every day up to 100, 120 miles. And when we get to a little town where we could go and beg at different restaurants and bakeries for food, go and dumpster dive behind grocery stores. One of us would do that, and the other would post up on a street corner, usually him, because he was better at juggling at the time, and put out a hat and make a little money. And we ended up doing that for 7.5 months together. He left. We also started with another guy. He stayed for a short while. My best friend's girlfriend came and then left. And then I traveled on alone. Ended up pedaling about 7,500 miles in 10 months.
Wow.
Got homesick, flew
Yeah.
back home. We went across the United States again together the next summer, met up with some other friends who had left before us, started a street performance troupe, and that didn't last long, as after we met up, we all split ways. I ended up biking from Portland, Oregon to Cleveland, Ohio to New Orleans, and then hitchhiked back the rest of the way across the country, and life continued on in this traveling sort of way for 6 total years. Ended up crossing 30 states, pedaled 28,000 miles, and saw 10 different countries, lived in the jungles of Kauai, and went down into Baja, Mexico. And this is the beginning of the story for my book, The Cycle of Kindness, which I'm all about generosity, living a life of service, treating others the way they want to be treated, known as the Platinum Rule, which I think is a little better than the Golden Rule, which is treat others as you want to be treated, because that assumes others want to be treated the same way we do.
Oh
And
yeah.
so like I mentioned, I'm going into psychotherapy, so trying to continue to utilize what skills that I have to help others heal, find their own path. I've been able to bring people joy and entertainment, wonder, and awe for a living since moving to San Diego 14 years ago. Started my own circus 13 years ago, and I've been bringing people joy as a juggler and stilt walker, clown, mime, living statue, character actor, MC, ringmaster, puppeteer. I've gotten to work for some crazy amazing organizations like the Playboy Mansion, Disneyland, the New York State Fair. I got to go to Zimbabwe a couple of years ago with a company called Clowns Without Borders. Beautiful organization. If anybody needs a nonprofit to donate to, highly recommend them. I've been on TV and in films a variety of times. I've been on The Gong Show. I've won Let's Make a Deal a couple times. I was in a movie called Crimson. Did a survival competition show called Fight to Survive. That was a wild experience in the jungle in Fiji. Done some music videos and been on the news and in magazines, New York Times, LA Times. It's been a wild journey,
Yeah.
man.
It's amazing. So what
Thanks.
haven't you done yet that you want to do?
Oh, well, I'm actually in this place in my life where I really want to give back. I read a book called The Go Giver. Short read, highly recommendable for anyone who's interested in living a life of service or simply calling more in. The premise is that to be a magnet to receive, we actually need to create an imbalance by giving more than we're receiving.
Hmm.
And so I want to do that. I want to create a nonprofit called the Cycle of Kindness, wherein I'm incentivizing people to commit random acts of kindness. So if anybody who's seeing this video is an app developer, somebody who knows coding, I'm looking for somebody to help me develop something that'll create a really profoundly positive impact on the world. I'm also in the process of working towards creating a retreat center and helping facilitate people's trauma recovery and healing in a variety of forms, in small groups, potentially large group awareness trainings, individual couples, family therapy, as well as psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy, which is currently legal in Oregon, Colorado, and a few countries around the world like Portugal and Costa Rica.
Yeah. Isn't it legal, microdosing or something legal in other places, more states or something?
So microdosing is kind of a gray area.
Let's see.
Doctors aren't really able to prescribe it in a lot of places yet. Ketamine assisted therapy is legal in a variety of places. It's decriminalized nationwide, so they're not going after clinics. Ayahuasca is legal in Colorado.
I see.
MAPS was unfortunately denied consent from the FDA to go from public trials, or excuse me, from clinical trials to publicly available medicinal therapies. So they're set back, unfortunately. But Somewhat recently, the Trump administration has come out with a public statement that has said that this is something that they're interested in. It's showing great benefit, especially for veterans, people with PTSD, really deep-seated trauma. And so there is still hope that this is going to change the face of psychotherapy radically in the next 10, 20 years, and that we're going to see some really cathartic times ahead.
Right. And it doesn't cost that much, does it?
So it depends on people's insurance. If
I
you're
see.
uninsured, can't get it covered, sessions are costly.
I see.
But when people can get it covered, there are health plans that are covering it entirely. So people have no out-of-pocket copay. But oftentimes there is that, minimum that people have through their insurance plans that applies to psychedelic-assisted
I see.
psychotherapy as
So is
well.
that why you're going back to school so you can actually diagnose people and prescribe it and have it all be on the
Exactly.
insurance?
Yep, I want to be able to diagnose, prescribe, do facilitated therapy sessions, and then what I believe is the most important thing is integration. So after the fact, people have these new and profound experiences that are sometimes overwhelming or unbelievable. They're often described as the most spiritual experiences people have ever experienced. And so it takes a real, call it good or conscientious therapist to help people bring those into their daily lives, to help them understand what to do with this information and make sense of how to incorporate it into new ways of being, habits, patterns, relationships, ways of treating other people, and so on.
And so obviously you must have some experience with this. Like, how'd you decide on this?
So
As
I do have experience with psychedelics. I would consider myself a psychonaut. Some of my most brilliant life experiences came through psychedelics. Some of them are written about in my book, The Cycle of Kindness. I got to do an ayahuasca ceremony in the Netherlands through a Santo Daime church that started in Brazil. It's an international world religion. It is able to legally give ayahuasca to people in a variety of countries. It is fascinating and profound. I've also gotten to experience things that were a little less legal, if you will. And through these experiences, not only has it helped me to be more aware of the morals, ethics, and principles that are involved in healthy facilitation and ethical therapeutic sessions, but also the importance of having a standard of excellence for practices, just like there would be with any major organization or field of study. And so not only do I want to go into private practice, group practice, but I also want to be a part of helping create such a standard of excellence in ethics so that there is a, certification that everyone can say, yes, you're totally safe to do this with me. I am almost overwhelmingly likely to do more good than harm because harm is possible.
Sure. Yeah.
People,
No, I was going to ask, what would you say, you were kind of going there, but what would you say to people that are scared of maybe some of the dangers of doing this?
yeah, people ought to receive a psychiatric evaluation
Mm,
before going and doing psychedelics in a clinical or social setting. It's very important to understand that if you are borderline schizophrenic, then doing a heavy dose of a psychedelic might push you to actually be schizophrenic. If you have SSRI issues, which is the common thing that shows up in depression, bipolar, and those kinds of things, then doing something like an MDMA, commonly known as ecstasy, can change a person's neuro brain receptors so that this person may have a significantly more difficult time experiencing joy for the rest of their lives. Now, these are rare, but even ketamine can cause things in the brain that I'm really looking forward to learning more about in my master's program. I've only read on a layman's level books like Ketamine for Depression and similar things. There's a Dr. Wolfert out of the Bay Area who's done really prolific work in this area that I could refer people to. And there's a lot of great research that people have been able to do who were willing to do it, call it renegade science, that were not necessarily above board, who were either that or very early on clinical trials for these things before anyone had FDA approval. There's been some really great science done. And so I encourage people, if you're curious, begin learning. Ask your primary care physician or mental health provider. Find out whether this might be right for you. Do a preliminary evaluation with a trained professional. As fun as it may be to go out on a weekend and try a psychedelic you've never tried before, there are also potential ramifications. And so as I was a person who did not participate in responsible use all of the time, I certainly encourage people to learn from the mistakes of others and not repeat their own mistakes.
Good advice. Well, you said a lot. You mentioned before we talk, you wanted to talk about a friend, and I didn't want to miss that in this interview. So do you want to
Sure. So
segue into that?
one of the things that Nourish, Heal, and Thrive is all about is thriving. And I absolutely love that you're doing this, Derek. I mean, props to you, man. True commendation. You're a man of my own kind of heart. So
Thank you.
good on you for putting these things together. And good on you to the people who are in this group for wanting to receive support for their own journey. And I was in a very similar place about 20 months ago and had a friend reach out to me informing me about an emotional intelligence and leadership training program. I was like, what is that? I've never heard of this kind of thing before. I looked into it, I did my research. Admittedly, at first, I was skeptical. But the more I learned about it, and at one point I decided I've rarely spent a lot of money on myself. I'm a pretty frugal person, and this isn't even that expensive. There are other groups that are more expensive, but there's a program called Next Level Trainings. They're based out of Columbus, Ohio. They do most of their trainings online via Zoom. It is a 4.5 month program that was so profound, it was life changing. It is, still is. I'm a volunteer for them. I help coach through their program now. It's absolutely amazing, life changing. The second weekend of training is called Breakthrough, and it is up there with one of the most transformative weekends of my life, right next to the birth of my firstborn daughter. There are other programs like Masters in Transformation Training, Leaders in Transformation, or a San Diego-based Ascension Leadership Academy. Most of these are about $8,000 to $12,000. Next level trainings for a full guided program is about $3,000. And so while that might be cost prohibitive for some, I found that I made that money back about fourfold just within the duration of the program itself. because I was activated, I was driven, I had support, encouragement, a team, facilitators, coaches, leaders, guidance. I was on fire like I've never been on fire professionally, relationally. I got really fit again. I was applying for some TV shows that I could have won major money on had I been selected. And while I wasn't, I was very motivated and driven. And so I did bring up a person who is very dear to me, who is a co-coach within this training program. Her name is Rosie Marie Buford. She is about to go through neurosurgery for a tumor that she has in her brain. And so I put her crowdfunding campaign on my personal website, Facebook, excuse me, as well as a variety of different groups online. And if people are in abundance and feel so inspired to donate to her, they can certainly do so through her Venmo and or my Venmo, and I'll just forward it along. And it's this really incredible thing that the Next Level Trainings community did for her in creating this fundraiser. Now, normally, every group or cohort ends up fundraising for a nonprofit, humanitarian organization. And I want to encourage everybody who's listening to make it a part of your own healing and thriving journey to be of service to others. Not only can you volunteer your time or, coach a little league or do a boy or a girl scouts or, go hand out food at a food bank, you can donate money to worthwhile organizations. Now, some of us need tax write-offs and others of us don't. But like I mentioned with that principle of the go-giver, the more that we give, the more that we draw in and attract abundance in an incredible magnetic way. And I want abundance for everybody in this group and anybody who ends up witnessing this video. And it's really a part of my life vision to help facilitate that for others, including this friend, Rosie, who deserves every bit of it.
Yeah, amazing. We're gonna have you put the link maybe to your Facebook group or to the fundraiser, whatever, in the comments here, so people can get that, and along with
Certainly.
your book and whatever else you want to share. Um,
You got it.
Anything else you want to say? Anything we didn't get to that you want to talk about?
There's a quote from Jim Carrey in his speech to Maharishi University, where if you've never heard it, go listen. It's so brilliantly moving and profound. And essentially, he's talking about his father, and he's encouraging the graduates to take a risk in doing what you love in life. Because, like his dad, you can fail at doing something that you don't love, so that you might as well take a chance and do what you do love. And that has been one of the guiding principles, call it a North Star of my entire life. People out there, take a risk, do what you love, even if it's outside of your day job, you can't risk losing that income. Dedicate 30 to 90 minutes every day. Don't just sit down and Netflix and whatever, but take the time to see your dreams come to life. Just like Thomas Edison or any other great inventor, you're probably not going to get it right the first try. It might take a whole bunch of tries. You're going to need perseverance, dedication, discipline, and willpower. And I guarantee you that in the end, it's going to be worth it. You're going to feel better about yourself, your contribution to the world, and the positive impact you can have on the planet. And I say this with love.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that and saying that, and thank you for being here. if you're watching and listening and you resonate with Nathaniel, he's going to put his links in the comments so you can connect with him and reach out to him and, share with him or, donate to Rosie or whatever you want to do. Man, this is so great, Nathaniel. Really appreciate this. And yeah, we look forward to having you back.
My pleasure, Derek.
And
Thank
if
you
you're,
again. It's an
yeah,
honor to be a part of other people's healing journey.
yeah. And if you like what we're doing here in Nourish, Heal, and Thrive, then come and interview and we'll spotlight you and let you share your gifts or share your story. Or even if you're
Yeah.
struggling, you can come here and get support. So
Yeah. Contribute, participate, give. Hit those love buttons for other people. Give some encouragement. It takes so little time, but for somebody, it can make all the difference in their healing journey.
totally. Thank you so much, Nathaniel. And yeah, like I said, we hope to have you back and we'll see you at the next one.
You
Bye,
got it. Thank you,
everyone.
Derek.